I have listened to a couple of stories, I mean, success stories that is being told by successful people about how they were able to build from nothing to something, how they were able to raise what they have going on today from the scratch. And this story is always centered around discipline and consistency. And you can tell the truth in this story when you hear them talk because this story comes from a place of experience. It is not based off of what they were told or what they heard, but it comes from the place of personal experience. And in the long run, I've been able to gather that this story does not have the sufficient words to describe the process of growth. Because one thing about this process is that until you experience it, you cannot really grasp what capacity that it takes to pass through this process. So I feel as though the truth about building from scratch or building from zero is really romanticized way too much and it is unvalidated in the real time. No one talks about the part where you're building from scratch, you're building from nothing, and every day that you show up, it looks like you're pushing a rock up the hill with no audience. I'm telling you, that part is very slow and it's very lonely. And there is not just any proof that you're not being delusional until way later. I mean, for those who doesn't quit. This part messes with your head a whole lot. No applause, no reassurance, no clear sign that what you're doing is right. It is just you, your idea, and a quiet question that keeps showing up every night, asking yourself if what you're doing is even going anywhere. That's the part that people skip when they tell success stories. So they just jump from zero to overnight win and they erase the months where growth was being invisible. Or even if they talk about it, they don't talk about it enough, to explain. In as much as I know that no matter how much you talk about it, if you don't experience it yourself, you can never grasp what it takes to pass through that process. So what makes it especially hard is that you're spending energy before momentum. No systems, no shortcuts, no record of success that you would say, oh, this worked the last time. Let me refer back to the record and try it again. No record like that. It is just your belief plus discipline plus a lot of quiet reps. And that's really, really exhausting. Building from scratch humbles you. It forces you to sit with doubt. It forces you to walk without validation. You just have to constantly keep showing up when motivation disappears because there are days when you ain't going to feel motivated in any form. There are days when you feel stupid for believing, and there are other days when you feel unstoppable for no clear reason. You'll mess up, and all you have to do is restart. You scrap plans that you once swore by, and still you keep going. Not because it's easy, but because something in you has refused to quit. You see that quiet persistence? That's where the real foundation is being laid. So keep it up. You go through all of this, and then one day, out of nowhere, things just start to connect. Not perfectly, not magically, but enough to prove that you weren't crazy. You see a small win, and then there is a little shift and a moment where you realize you're no longer second guessing yourself, but you're now becoming. And then what makes it even more powerful is not just the result, it is the fact that you have now known exactly what it takes to get there. At this point, you remember that every late night, every setback, and every moment that you almost quitted, they were all put together to make you become the person that you always envisaged to become. And when it finally starts moving, when it finally starts coming together, when it finally starts connecting, it hits differently. Because at this point, you know that every brick is yours, right? Your confidence at this point is not borrowed. And you trust yourself so much that even if it collapses, you have what it takes to build again. So that's why building from nothing is so fulfilling. That's great power. You don't just end up with something, but you end up with a great confidence in self. And this confidence is sharpened by the process that you learn. You learn that you can endure uncertainty. You learn that you can create momentum for emptiness. And you trust yourself without external proof. And once you've done that, I bet no one can take the strength away from you. Because whatever you have built and whatever you are going to build next, it is dependent on what you know, your knowledge, your ideas, and your belief. And when you are in this type of situation and you're able to scale through, trust me, you've done the hardest part. You've done the hardest part. And the hardest part is how you started and how you stayed on. Most people never sit in this uncomfortable middle long enough to get the payoff. So if you're there because I'm there, if you're at that point right now, that's not nothing. That's where the real work is. So carry on. Cheers.